Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Great Quarter Gals here on your Tuesday afternoon. I'm Kaylee Nix here with my partner in crime, Grace Sharkey, and this is the show where we highlight incredible women doing incredible things across the freight sphere. Grace, great to be back with you again as always and ready for another great show.
Yeah, it's we're wrapping up Black History Month, entering Women's History Month. So we've had some great content for February, and excited. We've got some really great people in March here as well. So it's a nice little transition episode for everyone.
I love it. We're going to be rolling right into Women's History Month, and it's going to be good. I know we've already got some folks on the schedule looking to fill up some of the rest of our dates as well. So excited to be moving on into that. And as you mentioned, we've got a really good show on the way today. And of course, you're not only our host here at Great Quarter Gals, host of Point of Sale, but you're also one of our writers on staff. And you write a column called The Logbook every week. Human interest stories, awesome things that are going on in the freight space. And oftentimes you write a lot about St. Christopher Truckers Foundation, which helps support drivers who've been taken off the road. And that's kind of going to be the overbroad topic for today, right?
Yes, not only do I maybe yearly dye my hair blue for them, but I truly bleed blue for them. I love St. Christopher's. I love everyone behind the organization. I think it's a very important group and organization for truck drivers out there. I mean, we're talking about an industry where if you're not rolling and those wheels aren't moving, you're not making money. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, a lot of people have to decide between life on the road or life circumstances like getting surgeries or taking care of their health. St. Christopher, they jump in and they're that shoulder to lean on for drivers in those times. So very excited to dive into what they're doing here in a little bit.
Me as well. But of course, before we get to our guests, we got to talk about news of the week. And some stories came out last week that I think are pretty interesting and pretty telling of the times that we're in. It's really no secret that if you're in a brokerage right now, times are tough on the job market, and a lot of brokerages are now feeling the pain of layoffs. Some brokerages bit off a lot, hiring a ton of companies or a ton of employees, that is, when the pandemic was in full swing. And now they may be having to walk some of that back. One in particular, our neighbor here in Chattanooga, Steam Logistics, offering $2,000 for employees to call it quits. And it's interesting because they say that this $2,000 kind of, wouldn't necessarily call it a buyout, I'd call it a payout, is actually less costly to them than going through a full layoff structure would be. Let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the ethos, the ethics behind this, and what you think, Grace.
First off, I do like thinking about this in reality too. Just the whole office getting a quit for $2,000 email and just looking at each other like who's about to take this. It is a pretty. It's a very business savvy way of, yes, letting people go, figuring out who doesn't want to be with your company long term, who might be looking at this as more of a step into some different type of career, and not at looking for that long term career at Steam. So yes, they were offered $2,000 to basically leave themselves. It's it's interesting. It's definitely, I think on paper seems very attractive, but I would say for employees out there, like, realize that you probably could be given better severance packages and or a better unemployment opportunities not taking this route. But it is an interesting ploy, and it's I really love this article too that I believe Alan Adler put together, because this is something that's been happening for a while. He said, I think Zappos, right? It was the first company to do this type of maneuver back in 2009. And even the whole layoffs in December thing is kind of a early or late 90s, I believe, early 2000s trend as well. So I can't blame Steam for, in the environment that we are at, offering something like this. Is it probably some of the employees' best choice to take? Probably not, but if maybe the job's not for you, or you are not enjoying your time in that office, here's a quick way to to wrap up your week.
To get yourself out right. And I think it's interesting to kind of see that be like kind of the culmination of the brokerage hiring specs, right? Something that's also very noteworthy for Steam is, of course, they are the company that's fighting to end non-compete. So their brokerages aren't underneath this non-compete agreement. For other companies, I don't know if you would know this off the legality, off the top of your head, or off folks you've talked to. If you get fired versus choosing to leave and take a payout like that, is a non-compete still in effect? Or is like, do we think that that's like a brokerage on brokerage kind of situation there?
I definitely don't want to talk for Steve on this one, but it just as in general, how would this work? I would hope that Steam is with the movement that they're leading, not forcing a non-compete in that situation. The ones I think that the industry are after, and the people that have the worst behavior when it comes to non-competes, I could totally see continuing to push a non-compete on them just because they can. But I think that goes back to the silliness of non-competes. What type of company is, and trust me, there's other people in this industry that have done what Steam's done. It's not just Steam. But how many companies are out there offering money to leave and then overtly going and spending legal dollars to then sue you? It's a crazy world we're living in. So I guess maybe the federal government will help lay that out here shortly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's going to be interesting to watch for sure and see maybe how that technique plays into other brokerages that need to let go of some of their talent. So Grace, let's go ahead and welcome in our guest for the day and going a little bit of a different route, right? We've got Lindsey Lawler joining us, who is a SiriusXM personality, one of your co-personalities there over at Sirius. She's also a country music singer and is going to be part of that St. Christopher Truckers Relief Fund benefit that's coming up here in just a few months. So Lindsey, we are so excited to have you on with us and to get a little bit, it's almost like a Nashville flash, right? I feel like I'm like an entertainment reporter right now. Lindsey, thank you for being here. It's good to have you.
A Nash flash. I like it.
I love that. I can't take credit for that. I think it's Buzz Brainerd who calls it the Nashville Flash. That's one of his segments. But regardless, Buzz, don't.
He's not here. It's fine.
Don't come for me for that one. But we're excited to have you and to learn a little bit about you. First thing, tell us about your music and how you got into the singing space.
Yeah, so I'm from Texas by way of Oklahoma. I moved to Los Angeles when I got out of college, but we've been in Nashville now about 17 years. And Nashville and country music is my heart. I grew up singing country music. So to be here now and really focus on it is now for 17 years is very exciting. But I've always worked in radio though as well. I worked for legendary Kid Craddock back in Dallas growing up, and then worked for Clear Channel when I was in Los Angeles, and have been in radio here in Nashville as well as always, or for the past now about 12 years, been connected with the trucking industry. So, it's really fun, especially being a part of Road Dog Trucking and the Sirius family now. It's really fun. It ties together all my worlds of both radio, music, and trucking. So it's really fun to marry all my worlds.
Yeah, their show on Saturdays is a hoot. You guys you dive into everything, and sometimes it's not even trucking related. But I'm interested, how did you take these steps into the trucking industry? You said 12 years ago you started that connection. What brought the music industry and the trucking industry together for you?
Yeah, so my father is an attorney actually in the insurance world. So he's dealt a lot with trucking. And so we have friends in the trucking industry. And so several years ago, I was hired to play at the Great American Truck Show back in the days of that back in Dallas, and literally was singing at back by the bathroom on the convention floor when they sing Itsy Bitsy Spider for truck drivers' kids during the show that day. And I met the people of the Truckload Carriers Association and heard about the Highway Angel program, which recognizes drivers who are out on the road performing extraordinary acts, anything from changing a tire to delivering a baby to saving a life. I heard about that program and I approached him and I said, let me write a song for you. And the president at the time, he said, that's either going to be horribly cheesy or horribly depressing. And I said, well, you're probably right, but let me try. And so we did. We wrote their song, and it ended up becoming sort of an anthem for them and for truck drivers, and something that I'm really proud of. And from that, I sort of saw the need and the connection between drivers and the music business, really, of drivers needing to find entertainment and connection on the road. And so along with my publicist, I developed a thing called the Highway Angel Truck Stop Tour. And we went out on the road for several years doing free concerts for truck drivers at the TA Petros across the country. It's how I really found my connection with the St. Christopher Fund and good people there as well as Radio Nemo, because I'd be on their show quite a bit promoting some of our different stops through the Highway Angel program. So it's what kind of, again, married a lot of those worlds. And it's what really kind of began my love affair with truck drivers. I mean, not in a very clean way, because I started realizing all the connections that we share while being on the road, as musicians and drivers, being away from our families and, constantly in a different place and trying to, keep the connection up and stay healthy and all the things. And a lot of my songs have come from stories drivers have shared with me. So it's a really cool connection that I'm really proud to be a part of.
I absolutely love that, because road life is something that can be so isolating, right? And it is completely non-exclusive to what form you take of being on the road, whether you're a country music star or you're a Hollywood star or you're a driver or, you're a railroadman. It's hard work to be away from your family, to be away from your friends, and to really feel like you're lacking that connection, and all you're out is doing this job, no matter how much you love it, right? When you're talking about building these connections and these relationships, is there a story that really sticks with you that you've kind of come back to constantly throughout the years? Or is there a story that you've written, maybe your favorite song about, that you would want to share with us?
From a driver standpoint?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. Definitely it is, just for one, sort of a blanket statement, really cool to see drivers show up at shows and, these, from a cliche standpoint, the big burly truck drivers show up crying at shows, saying that song really touched me. And Highway Angel, thank you for seeing me, which that's something that I think is so important, being seen in that connection piece, like you mentioned. It's so important in our world, especially today, especially after all we've been through the past couple of years. But, what's really funny is I love the connection too when I sing, because a lot of my songs, like I said, have been, targeted almost like a school assignment. I've written a song for women in trucking. I've written a song for the Citizen Driver program, for the Highway Angel program, for the Capitol Christmas Tree program. So they've always been like a school lesson. But then when I write things inspired specifically by just, I'd say, real life stories, I love when drivers say to me, thank you for singing about stuff other than trucks, and realizing we like stuff other than trucks. I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
you're human too, right? And one song that I wrote called He Loves the Road was inspired by this man named Gary Salisbury, who is a truck driver, has been all his life, then started his own trucking company. He's worked in sort of every facet of the trucking world. But we were talking one night, and he, at a trucking convention or somewhere. And he happened to say to me and my co-writer, Chris Roberts, he said, that the hardest the best worst thing about being a driver is when you realize how much you love the road and that the road is your first love, and then figuring out how to find that balance with your family and how to tell your wife that and make her understand that the road is really his first love, not his main love, but his first love. And that really sat with me for a long time. And so we wrote this song called He Loves the Road. And the tagline is, I wish to God that I love coming home the way that I love the road. And that's something that's been really special to me to sing and watch that connection with drivers be like, I love my wife, I love my kids, I love my husband, but man, that road is that driving force, pun intended, that keeps me going. So, yeah.
I love how you speak about even like meeting and talking with these drivers, because we're going to be at Matt's here in a couple of weeks, and even the time we spent in DC for a Race Across America, it's amazing to really see these individuals in their element, and you almost feel like more of an outsider than you have in the past. And I guess for you, working with these drivers, right, learning how close they are connected to the road, what has surprised you the most about the driving culture that maybe like consumers themselves really need to understand when they're driving next to these guys on the road and cutting them off, or giving them shit at a receiver, right? What is something that you really want them to understand that's important to drivers in the way that they live?
Yeah, well, I mean, outside of the basic that we know that people forget that what a necessity truck drivers are. Obviously, we saw that during COVID, but people forget it. And I truly believe that these men and women on the road are legitimate rock stars. And I've gotten to see that in programs like, say, the Citizen Driver program, where drivers are awarded a truck stop to be named after them. Like, that's the ultimate award for a driver, right? And so and I sang at a lot of those naming ceremonies. So to see the mayor and media and all these people's families show up and hear people talk about drivers, to hear people talk about the drivers in their life, it's like this constant, we see them as so separate on the road, I think sometimes, the four-wheelers, that it's like, it's me against the driver. And when you hear the stories about what these drivers do when they're not driving, and remember, they're human. They're just a human being. It's like in the Us Weekly where it says celebrities, they're just like us. They put their pants on one leg at a time. I believe that for drivers to be similar, that when you hear about, the families they have to go home to, the communities that they volunteer with, a lot of them are veterans. A big majority of them are veterans or volunteer with their local, fire department or as EMTs. And so it's almost like taking trucking out of the mix of a driver and just like giving them that human element, to me, is what is the most important part. And that it's just surprising. I don't know why I'm always still surprised when, like, we have so many drivers call in on our weekend show to talk about motorcycles and what, music they like and what books they're reading. And it's always like, oh my gosh, you do other stuff than drive a truck. Let's remind people of that. I don't know why that's so shocking all the time, but it is. That's my way to look at them like rock stars. I mean, they're the rock stars of the road. I believe that.
I love that. The rock stars of the road. So when you are on SiriusXM and you're part of that show on Saturdays, as Grace mentioned, is there kind of a difference between what you're doing honoring drivers on the Sirius show versus honoring them with your songs? Or is it kind of the same thing, just kind of wrapped up into different packages?
Yeah, I think the weekend show, which is fun, like Dave Nemo does, Monday to Friday, along with Jimmy Mack as well during the week. It's more, news, informational, policy based. And so what we're trying to do on the weekend, I think is really what we tried to do with like the truck stop tour and our concerts for drivers, which is give them that reprieve, give them a breath to be entertained. And as Jimmy Mack puts it, if a driver could call in and say, wow, I just realized 4 hours went by, I was entertained while getting paid to roll down the road. That's like his check mark that he's, his life is complete, his job is complete. So I think that's what we're really doing on the weekend show, trying to bring in, I have a lot of my songwriter friends. I live in Nashville. A lot of my friends are hit songwriters and great artists, along with Levi Humman, who I'm doing the show with, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so to have a musical reprieve and have authors on and actors on and talk about things other than just, policy and news information. Certainly we trickle that in. But I think that's the idea, trying to give them a break, because we know that music and entertainment, we definitely learned this again. I keep referencing the COVID times, but still triggered by that. I guess we all are. But so that's like the underlying thing, to really be able to give these men and women a break and just, help them pass the time while they're doing their job that we need them to do.
Well, and speaking of Levi, and speaking of this wonderful concert, so everyone out there, of course, one of our favorite groups that we like to talk about on the show, we have on SiriusXM all the time, is St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund. And they're doing their first live benefit concert. The other one was virtual, so now we're out here in person COVID's not over, but hey, it's over for this, right? And it's going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee at Cotton Eye Joe's. It's a Highway to Hope concert. You are going to be performing with Nemo as well, which is awesome. He is incredible. I love watching him on YouTube too. And then, I mean, hello, Levi. I'm single, but this is... he's a great upcoming artist as well. I have just added a bunch of his songs to my playlist. Question for you: how excited are you for this? And I know that especially being able to perform with Dave and then perform with Levy as well. How great is this an opportunity for you?
Yeah, it's funny. It's another thing that like marries all my worlds. I've been friends with Levi for years. Levi's dad, who is Marcus Hammond, who's a Grammy Award winning songwriter, wrote God Bless the Broken Road and Cowboy Take Me Away, Born to Fly, et cetera, et cetera. And Marcus and I worked together quite a bit. And so we've watched Levi grow up. I'm a little bit older than Levi. So sort of watched him grow up. And so this is our first time that we sang together out at in Mexico for this music festival that I'm a part of. But this is our first show to do, Levi and I together. So that will be super fun. And yeah, I love St. Christopher's Fun. There's so many singers that show up and sing for benefits because they were told to, a publicist sent them there, or they were getting paid, or, whatever the deal may be. But I have gotten to sing for so many trucking related events that I have a heart for and that I have seen firsthand at work. And I know what St. Christopher Fun does. I know the benefit of it. I know that it's actually beneficial, and it's actually, putting their money and their time and their efforts into the drivers and the families' pockets and lives. So that's really cool. And what's actually added really special for this event is that it's not just for truck drivers. This is open to the public, and it's at a huge, like Cotton Eye Joe there in Knoxville, right off the freeway. It's a huge country music venue, a really well-known one, and really cool that on a Saturday night, their busiest night, Cotton Eye Joe their proceeds from the door are going to St. Christopher Fun and to Truckers Relief, which is a really cool bonus. So, I've said for years, I love that we within the trucking industry tell each other, remind each other about how great trucking is. We know that it's taking that message outside, letting non-trucking related people, families hear more about the industry and see great things that we're doing. So I know Levi's excited. I'm excited. Dave, Nemo's going to be there emceeing. He's going to perhaps sit in and have a little drum solo special with our band. And it's going to be a really fun event. And there's VIP tickets as well if you want to come out and be part of the VIP, where we're going to do a little special pre-concert with food and drinks, and then have the main event that evening. So it's going to be really special. Good old honky tonk night. And I'm actually in the studio right now working on a new record that comes out this summer. So it's going to be my first show doing these new songs from the album. So that to me is very special.
Awesome, Lindsey. Cool. Well, I'm about an hour, 45 minutes down the road in Chattanooga, Tennessee, so I might make it up there to catch us. It would be absolutely awesome to go and see that. And we are so grateful for you to come on and talk about this concert, and of course, to hear your work. If folks want to maybe listen to a little bit more of your work, are you on Spotify? Are you on Apple Music? Where can they go to do that?
My music is everywhere you find music: Spotify, Apple, Pandora, wherever you find your music. You can go to lindseylawler.com, Lawler. I'm on social media. You can find me anywhere and everywhere. And actually 2 singles that will be coming out next month, and then a full new record coming out. I haven't put out a record in a while, and this is a country record. So going back to my roots, Texas country record. So Yes, thank you. And come see me in Nashville. I love this show. Y'all are badasses. This is really cool. So thank you for having me. Such an honor.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And of course, as you saw up on the screen, head on over and get those Highway for Hope tickets. It's going to be in just about a month and a half, April 22nd, up in Knoxville, Tennessee. I guess I should say up from me. I would love to see you guys there. I know everybody would love to see you there as well. Grace, do you think that you could make it to Knoxville for this? I know you're kind of busy on your travel list.
I'm truly working it. I think I'm like 80% yes right now, because it is like a time period where I have a nice gap. So I'm working on it right now. It's
There you
I'm
go.
trying to VIP all the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of your travel, you've got Matt's coming up in just a few short weeks. Mid-America Trucking Show in Kentucky. Tell us a little bit about that.
Super excited. Yes, I'll be at Matt's. It sounds like Justin, Super Trucker, and Rooster will be there too. We'll be doing the SiriusXM show live. They have an awesome stage set up in the middle. It's really cool because the drivers do come out, and they have like a little fan club. It's really, really awesome. So I'm excited to meet a lot of our listeners in person. And it's a huge family event too. She's absolutely right. This is a great opportunity to not only see different technologies, different companies within the trucking industry, but see these drivers show off to their families just exactly what they're doing too. Plus, there's really cool trucks. Like that's the best part is the trucks.
The trucks are the best part. Exactly. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in for us today for Great Quarter Gals, and of course, we'll see you next week. Hopefully, you enjoyed our State of Freight webinar from today. If you missed it, you can head on over to tv.freightwaves.com to catch today's webinar as well as our webinar from the last month as well on demand. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Have a great rest of your week.
I remember that the road was wet, the bright lights from the cars ahead. I remember every word from the prayer I said. And I remember how time stood still, seemed like forever until the world came crashing down.